We're going to do a little review together on video, and then there's a worksheet to follow that you're going to see will prepare you for your test. Okay, to start out, we're going to take the example of creating a quadrangle. Okay, if we have a point here, a point here, a point here, and a point here, and I ask you to use a straight edge, I wouldn't see something like this. That's not a straight edge. I would expect that you would get a ruler and you would create a straight edge line from there to there. Okay, so we created the quadrangle, and I ask you, how do we call this? What do we call this quadrangle? Well, all the points have letters. This point we might say is A. This point is L. This point is C. And this one is P. So you might call this quadrangle A, P, C, L. Now just by looking at this quadrangle, if I were to ask you to tell me which one is a right angle, what angle is a right angle, you'd have to remember that a right angle is an angle that is completely perpendicular, or like you could put almost a square inside of it. So if I were to put a square inside of this perfectly, it would be a right angle. So which one of these could I put a square perfectly into? Take a look. Let's look closely together. Can I put a square in this? Does it line up right? Nope. Can I put a square in this one? Nope. Can I put a square in this one? Yes. Can I put a square in this one? Yes. Now you have to take into account that this is a drawing, so it's a little different, but if I were to ask you what angles are right angles, you would say L and C. Those are both right angles that we have on this quadrangle. The next thing we're going to review is the line segments that are parallel and the ones that intersect. Remember, if they're parallel, they never touch. It's like if they go into infinity, they never touch. If it looks like this, even though they might not be touching, it would go over it. Okay, so this one we would call parallel, just like the L's in the word. Parallel. The L's don't cross. Okay, and this one we would say they're not parallel. They intersect. They're intersecting lines, and you can think of the T as two lines that intersect also. Okay? Lines of symmetry. When we do a line of symmetry, we did this one last week, we're finding a line that would cut an object in half so that it folds exactly over from one side to the other, and it's even. Okay, so if I were to look at this triangle, this would not be a line of symmetry because when this part comes down, it would come down like that. Those aren't equal. But if I had a triangle and I did my line of symmetry through the middle, this side would fold over and be exactly like this one. So the line of symmetry for a triangle would be through the middle. There's one line of symmetry. Now if we look at a square, there's more than one line of symmetry. Because if I cut along there, this folds like that. Think of like a napkin. Or even like that. If I cut it along the middle, the top goes to the bottom, or from side to side. A square has a lot of lines of symmetry. Now it might become a little bit more difficult if you were to see something like a trapezoid. What's the line of symmetry? Well, if my drawing were perfect, would this side match this side to cut down the middle? The last part that you're going to see is a review. These last two parts are a review that we did in an earlier chapter. They're story problems because they give you a number and they ask you to think about how many ways you can break it up. So let's give an example of cookies, right? There's 5 cookies, and let's say we're going to do 8 cookies. There's 8 cookies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have 8 cookies, and I have 4 friends at my house. So if I have 8 cookies, that's how many I have in all. And I have 4 friends. How many cookies does each friend get? Well, it becomes a division problem, and we have to group them. So you take 4 friends, 1 friend, 2 friend, 3 friend, and 4 friend. Always draw a picture, it really helps. And we're going to break up the cookies. So 1 to this friend, 1 to this friend, 1 here, 1 here. Another 1 to this friend, another 1 to this friend, another to this friend, and another to this friend. So can you tell me how many cookies does each friend get? This friend got 2, this friend got 2, this friend, and this friend got 2. So it's 2 cookies for each of our friends. The very last part that you'll see on your review is the number grids that we've been working on and writing them in decimal. Okay, so how would we write that in decimal? We know that the flat has 100. So just like in practice the other day, if there are 4 filled, there are 4 out of 100 of the cubes filled. So we would call that 4 hundredths. And think about our place value. We know that's the ones. That's the tenths, but we don't have any tenths. And the hundredths. And how many hundredths do we have? 4.